A tsunami. Apparently there is a tsunami of anxious young adults who are seeking help in unprecedented numbers, and that's since COVID hit. More help and funding is available than ever before, but it's still not enough apparently, one education leader argues. Getting through anxiety is about the basics apparently: sleeping and eating well, getting fresh air and spending time with friends, a psychologist says. It's like, you're going to need fresh air. What a twit. How the hell do you get fresh air wearing a bloody mask? At any rate, throw together a pandemic, the cost of living and housing crises and a climate change along with online trolls, and you get a tsunami of anxious young adults. Some wokish reporter for stuff has written or reported this absolute pile of garbage. Garbage? Of course it's garbage, making excuses for anyone who has never had a backbone. This woke writes, imagine the feeling you get just before you step onto a roller coaster. The beads of sweat, the dry mouth, the rapidly beating heart, and the sick feeling in your stomach. Now imagine that happening regularly in your day-to-day life. Well, anyone going through that, a lot of mixed emotions, is certainly a loser before they even start. Political pressure from performing arts. He wants to try doing something that takes more bottle than that. Lockie Cowles was already feeling overwhelmed with his school workload, school politics, performing arts and activism since the COVID-19 pandemic hit. He had spent countless hours preparing for the lead role in his high school musical, only to have the massive disappointment of being sent into lockdown during final rehearsals, and the performance was cancelled. Of course he would have been disappointed. Of course the kid would have been disappointed, but disappointment is no excuse for self-bloody pity. He says, I felt very isolated in lockdown. How I learned best is with other people in collaboration. Having to do everything by myself was an absolute struggle. It was a lot of pressure, he says. The lockdown and the uncertainty over how COVID was affecting the future exacerbated feelings of anxiety Cowles had experienced over big issues like climate change, housing and the cost of living crisis. It's difficult to describe, he said. I feel external fears over things you can't control, knowing that the world is absolutely going to crap. I don't think it will ever go away. It was the stress of the year 13, especially with COVID. It just meant I didn't feel like it was something I was up to doing, he said. COVID has changed how we interact. We can't learn together in a lecture hall and engage in clubs and socialise on campus, all the normal things that students usually do. And on top of that, we had the job losses through COVID and people can't afford to live. That increases the stress and the pressure on people. Now, let's be honest, that statement is absolute crap, isn't it? Let's think about it. I'm going to reread it. And on top of that, this is what this kid was saying, an 18-year-old young adult. This is what he was saying. And on top of that, we had the job losses through COVID and people can't afford to live. That increases the stress and pressure on people. Now, that is crap, isn't it? We can't get staff. Can you get staff? We can't get staff. There are heaps of jobs that pay good rates. No wonder these young adults are anxious. They believe their own uninformed, woke-driven nonsense. There is a whole heap of unrecognised anxiety bubbling away, and lots of people are dropping out, he says. There's no research done on why, but we believe anxiety and stress is a major part of that. Well, I can tell you what it is. Spineless little twits. Okay, you older people, what do you think about that load of self-pitying, spineless gobbledygook? Because that's what it is, spineless gobbledygook. There are still a lot of elderly out there that can remember the war. I can. With Dad away overseas with his mates, our uncles, and in some cases even aunties nursing close to the front line. I can't recall any of us suffering from anxiety or depression. The reasons back then we had parents mostly, they were mums of course, that had a spine along with grandparents who took no shit from anyone and kept us all on the straight and narrow. Our school teachers did not fill our heads with the scare of the moment like hydrogen bombs and Japs are coming or the Russians will take over the South Pacific. The teachers and parents today are an absolute disgrace, unable to maintain a sound and sensible environment for our young people. Talk to most grandparents, they really are horrified how the little darlings have been spoilt to the point of absolutely no reason. The nonsense and stupidity being pushed from the front of the classroom, that is a major concern. And these little spoilt, spineless babies can't even do any activities without Mummy. Yeah, Mummy has to put them in the car and take them to wherever it is their activities might be. Goodness, no wonder the little overspoilt darlings with no direction is having depression and taking drugs or medication to overcome the self-inflicted or adult-imposed anxiety. I had coffee earlier this week with two employers of part-time secondary school-age students. Their comments were most unflattering and wonder what does the future really hold for New Zealand when the bulk of these kids, including their parents, are either Prozac queens and the kids are medicated up to their eyeballs because they have never been taught to handle the tough times. Direct them, instruct them in an employer-type relationship, or even suggest a better way. Most of these kids seem to have an internal meltdown whenever that happens. It's easy to understand why and how these young people need to take drugs to interact with other human beings. They've been so spoilt, just ask and they will receive generation, and so many have lost their ability to even converse, think, and certainly no ability to debate. We even have a couple of woke idiots currently going to an awful lot of trouble trying to get the voting age approved for 16-year-olds. Currently, I believe anyone under 30 years of age should not be allowed admittance to any polling station. Well, with the help of the spineless, anti-anxiety medicated and drugged up parents, including the idiot school teachers, it is without a doubt New Zealand and this current spineless population seem to be on a handcart to hell.